this is a question that that uh, some of you are going to be way past this topic, all right? But also this is a really good reminder. Um, so I have data on thousands of goalie parents, right? Uh, I the work that I do here, right? And when I moved to Canada, like for those of you guys that don't know, I'm from Boston, been in Canada for 20 years now, right? And I've run Lacrosse Goalie Tips and Lacrosse Goalie University since 2001. Um, like it was literally one of the earliest domain names registered. When it's kind of cool. Anyway, so over that time, I don't really feel like there's anybody that has had as much discussion with goalie parents as much as I have. Okay. Uh, because I talk to goalie parents all over North America, all over the world, right? But primarily in the United States. Like field lacrosse is like I'm not trying to blow that out of the water, but I've been doing this a long time, and I've talked to people all over the place. So I hear common problems more so than if I ran a camp and I just worked with your kid, and then sent you off in the parking lot, that sort of thing. Um, this is very different. And with my Lacrosse Goalie University members, I talk to the parents almost more than I talk to the kids sometimes, right? And I talk to their coaches occasionally where appropriate. So I'm in a different point of view on these things. And so one of the things when people join our group at Creating the Lacrosse Goalie Future, I ask 3 questions, right? And if you don't answer the 3 questions, you don't get in. But one of the questions is like, what's your biggest concern about your lacrosse goalie development? Okay. And and what's really interesting is that probably about 20% of the answers go something like, I want to help my goalie get better. It's too vague, right? It's too vague. Yes, better is great. Thinner is nice, but how much? Like, if you want to thin out, like how much do you need to lose? Like, what kind of weight do you want to have? Like, let's set some smart, as much as I hate smart goals, I like smart goals. I just don't like the realistic part. So, but the idea is you need clarity. So when, this past week, like we've had records of numbers of people join our group. I've had record numbers of email signups over on a blog at Lacrosse Goalie University. And so when I ask that question, like, what's your number one concern? I'm always hoping for a better answer. So if you've given me a better answer, good on you. But the idea here is that, we know as lacrosse goalies that some shots are harder to stop than others. Okay. It's kind of well, sometimes it's talked about, but it's kind of an untalked about thing. It's like, all right, listen, yeah, if I did a goalie audit this week and a goalie got like literally the midi beat 5 of their players, 5, right? And comes and slam dunks the goalie from just outside the crease. That's a hard shot to stop, right? It's harder than the time and room shot taken from, say, outside 15 yards, right? For the girls, you would agree a player coming straight at you is easier to stop than a player sweeping across the front of the crease. Okay, we know that. But here's the key, everybody. We don't talk about it. Why? Because a goalie's number one question the number one question that drives all goalie development is when a goalie gets scored on, you have to ask, all right, how do I make that save the next time? All right. So some of you guys might have seen it was the High Point game. Goalie gets lit up from this midi kind of comes driving down side left on the goalie. Defense gets a little crossed up. This guy kind of takes a quick left turn about a yard above goal line, extended, and rips the ball low to high from like 5 yards. And some of the comments on Instagram were like, dude, guy took his driver out when all he needed was his putter. And I'm looking at that goalie going, all right, listen, dude, you know, have you trained? Have you just bitched about crease cranks or have you actually trained for them? There's a difference, right? So if you get lit up in practice and by a crease crank, and listen, I'm not against this. We talk about this in our group a lot. We don't like crease crankers. I don't like them in practice when my goalie's not really ready for them and that means like protected. Maybe I'm all for crease cranking on a goalie in practice. If the goalie's protected and the guys are shooting with tennis balls, or the girls are using tennis balls, let's do that. Because here's what happens: like if your goalie, um, let's say if in practice your coaches only shoot on your goalie from outside to keep your goalie from getting beat up, but then your team's horrible, and then come game day, your goalie's just letting it, every shot is from inside 5 yards. Well, if you haven't trained that all week, your goalie's not going to be very good. Right? That's just like a law, right? So the idea here is that sometimes parents will go to a goalie after a game and they'll say, "Hey, man, that shot, that shot in the second quarter, it's all right. That's too hard to stop." Don't ever say that to your goalie. Don't ever say that to your goalie. Your goalie knows which ones are harder than others. But what you want to say to your goalie is like, "All right, we seem to give up a lot of those shots on game day, right? And if you're using the goalie scorecards and the cheat sheets, then you're going to understand that where the shots are coming from." And so the question is like, well, how do I save that shot the next time? Right? That's the question. And so that drives all goalie development. So if you think your goalie's not very good, the question is like, okay, where are the shots coming from? Where are they going in on him or her? And then what do we need to do to get them better? Did they see the ball? Did they know where it's going? Could they move in front of that ball? Right? Okay, did they move in front of the ball, but was it kind of a weak move because they're not protected enough and they didn't want to get hurt? And that's a tough question to ask, but that's usually the one that a lot of goalies need to, even, you know, like I had a college goalie this past season who was like, wanted to be a leader. Was a freshman, wanted to be a leader, wanted to look the part, wanted to be tough, thought it was weak to wear padding. Gets lit up 2 games into the season, gets 3 shots on the inside of one thigh and 1 shot on the other on the inside of the other thigh, all in practice. And basically, now what does he have in his head? He has that cloud of fear in his head, going like, "Oh my God, is the next one coming from my nuts?" Tough questions, but you gotta ask those things because a lot of you guys will send your goalie off to a camp or a clinic and they'll get ripped on by a bunch of college kids and it's fun. And that's as a goalie, I still remember those times, man. Like I have vivid memories of getting shot on by those next level players, and that was exciting. It was cool, but did it really help my game? No, because when I went back to my high school team, the majority of the shots were inside 8 yards from side left. Right, getting shot on from 15 yards out front by a college kid is kind of a waste of money. Um, so you got to think about that, right? You got to understand that the question is like, okay, what are we facing? Because your goalie on one team may be facing a different type of shots than a goalie on another team. And I have a bit of a I'm getting pretty heated on this topic, but I watch the college games aren't that bad, but they're still pretty bad. The high school games, I'm like, yeah, you want better goalies. Teach your defense how to play some damn one-on-one, right? Like it's crazy. It drives me nuts. Okay, so but here's the deal. Um, when parents like rightly or wrongly, and again out of love, you don't want your goalie to be too disappointed, right? I get it. You say like, hey, don't worry, that was a tough one. That fast break in the third quarter, you're not supposed to get that one. That's the worst. That's like the kiss of death, because then the goalie like doesn't think, well, how should I've got it? What can I do? The goalie's like, oh yeah, you're right, Dad. I don't, I wasn't supposed to get that one. No, right? Here's the deal. If in fact you believe that, like if in fact that was like a thing where you said like, hey, some shots are just too hard to stop, I encourage you next time that happens to just walk out of the cage. I don't care if it's a game. I'm testing you. Just walk. Just leave. Just go. Just like do. You're out of here. Right now, you're all thinking like you're crazy, and you're right because no goalie would do that. And so here's what happens: why does the goalie stay in the cage in that moment, right? So if we know a shot's like really hard to stop, maybe it's not supposed to be stopped, it's too hard to stop. Why does the goalie walk out of the cage? Here's why. One, goalie hopes it hits them, right? Goalie hopes it hits them if they're protected, because if they're not protected, the goalie wishes it doesn't hit them, right? Number two, goalie stays in the net because they hope that the shooter might miss the net, right? Okay. And the third option is that the goalie stays in the net, even on those tough shots, because maybe for some crazy reason, the shooter doesn't get to shoot at all. Okay. So we had that, I think it was Andy Levinson's daughter this week. They posted a group photo in the group where she obviously she came out of the crease on a clear, ended up running into an offensive player, ran her over, which was awesome. Okay. And it's all the push-ups she's been working on. And the ref called the foul. And so the goalie has to stand behind the shooter. Right. And the clip ended, I'm pretty sure the girl scored. But that was a perfect example of where, like, okay, we give the girl the ball and then we take the goalie out of the net. And so what are we all hoping? One, we hope she misses, right? Two, we hope maybe another defender can fly in front of the space, before the goalie can get there to possibly make that save, right? But or she hits the post or whatever, or she, I don't know, trips over her own feet. But the idea here is that every save is stoppable. Every save is savable. Every shot in practice is an opportunity for a goalie to learn, right? That's why I can't stand when goalies are out of a net when there's shooting drills going on, right? It's why I can't stand when teams do would rather do line drills than shooting drills on their goalie. That's a huge waste. Okay, and I've covered this a couple of weeks ago. The idea that, like, what is a pass, but just an accurate, like a catchable shot. That's it. So work on the shots. Work on shots on your goalies. Right. Tell them where you want the ball shot, and then guess what's going to happen? Your team's going to get better from shooting. They're going to be more accurate passers, and your goalies are going to get better too. Voila. So Gus, that's part of the answer I'm going to give you in a second. Okay, but that's something to think of. So, so the question that the goalie has to ask is, how do I make that save? Right, crease crank from 5 yards out, ripped it by your left ear. How do you make that save? Okay, are you just going to get your stick there? Are you going to tilt your head into it? Are you going to shrug your shoulder? If you say no to any of those things because you feel like you're unprotected, you got to pad up. Okay. But then the goalie's got to break it down. Did I see it? Did I know where it was going? Did I move in front of it properly? Was I slow? Did I not use the most efficient piece of my being to make the save? Right. Then that's something you just got to consider. So when you come up with the answer, you come up with the answer, you go like, so how do I make that? Like, how can I prove that? Whatever that is, now you start to go like, okay, well, should I train that? Because here's the thing: is if the shot that scored on your goalie was like an exception, right? Like, let's say it was a deflection, bounced off 3 guys' heads and off her ponytail and in the net. Okay, I'm not going to now go to practice. I'm going to shrug that one off, right? These are like bell curves, right? We want to train for the middle of the bell curve. We get too far in the fringes. Like, I tell all my goalies, I want you to spend like 5% of shots in practice on creative stuff. That used to be bounce shots or sorry, behind the back shots. Now behind the back shots are pretty frequent, especially in the girls' game. Like for my generation, we grew up, if you did a behind the back shot in practice, your coach made you do laps. Right now, it's like, let's bring it behind the back. Oh, and between the legs, right? One-handed, no less, right? So you can have some creative time, and I totally encourage that. But I'm not going to dedicate a large portion of time to those exceptions. Okay, you don't want to waste your time on exceptions, and I see a lot of people doing that. Okay, work on the middle of the bell curve that is appropriate for your level of play, right? So what I mean by that, like I was saying before, is like, because you've used the goalie scorecards and your goalie's doing video review or somebody's doing video review, and you realize like, okay, for our team, our girls give up all these shots from side left, sweeps from within 5 yards. Okay, guess what we're going to work on in practice? We're going to work on that shot. Yeah, coach, I don't care that you're hoping to work on your offense today, which is, shots from side right, top, no, your defense needs this help. Your goalie needs this help. You got to work on it. All right. That's just a reality. Okay. So I'll just reiterate this, guys. So a lot of goalies, a lot of parents don't like seeing their goalies getting beat up on shots, like on one-on-ones from in close. I've talked about this a lot. Your team should be using like tennis balls inside like 3-on-2s, right? Right. But the point is that you can't just say like, we're going to take our goalie out of that drill, or we're not going to shoot like that on our team for our goalie's sake, because now you're just hurting your team. I like to say, like, a rising tide raises all ships, and guess what? Your goalie's the water, right? So you got to you've got to understand that you've got to practice what you're going to see on game day, and that may vary when you're in fourth grade, fifth grade, sixth grade, eighth grade. You know, X's. I'm a seventh grader goalie, but the high school coach saw me and wanted me to play JV. Awesome. That's awesome, dude. Stay safe, right? Stay protected. Enjoy it. Can't remember who it was this week that whose goalie played up. Who was that? And they're tiny, right? They're I call them the angry dwarf. Okay, so always understand this: the question to ask with any goalie, right, at any level, when they miss a ball, when the ball goes in the net, you got to ask, how can I make that save? Like, what do I have to do to make that save? Because odds are you're probably going to see that shot again at some point. And if you just walk away and go like, "Oh, yeah, honey, that shot, you're not supposed to save those." You've completely sucked the life out of your goalie. Don't say that, mom, dad, whatever, right? The truth is, let your goalie grieve a little bit, get angry, get upset, and then get to the acceptance level like, "Hey, did I see it? Did I know where it was going? Did I move in front of it? No, okay, well, I saw it. I knew where it was going, but I'm like, you know, I'm 95 pounds and I'm 4 feet tall and I don't need to have the strength to make that save." Okay, fine. Great. We sometimes we're just waiting for Mother Nature. That's a reality. But maybe, can you do 10 push-ups yet? Can you work on it? Because maybe the next game you come back and you can do 10 push-ups and now you make that save. Right. So I always want the solution. As I've mentioned before, like with the work I do at Athlete Specific and Mental Performance School, I work with athletes in other sports who are trying to become Olympians and pros and things like that. And that's a really important question to ask. It's not like, "Oh, I suck." It's like, no, what do I need to do to be able to do that in the future, and then work to that. That's why, like, if your athlete talks about like mental health and like, "Oh, they're all bummed out." No, they're just like, I get it. You're bummed out. You're grieving. Like, athletes grieve. And I really need to write a book on this. Like, the key to athletic success is to get through the grieving process as quickly as possible, right? Every shot, every game, every season, whatever, right? Get angry, get upset, bargain, get depressed, get to acceptance as quickly as you can. And when you get to acceptance, go, "What the hell do I have to do to get better?" And then work on that. Because if you don't work on it, you'll just get bummed out. All right. Um, Question here: why do coaches expect us to play JV without any leg pads? I bought my own girdle and shin guards. Yeah, dude. That's I don't know what to tell you, but that doesn't have to be the case. Just because you get to high school doesn't mean, like, that coach is stuck in very old school thinking. And when you listen to me, when you listen to other people in our group, it makes no sense to tell a goalie, "Okay, take your shin guards off," right? Because if you have any sort of, not necessarily fear, but just like tell the coach, "Okay, coach, listen, we're gonna put you in the cage, and I'm gonna shoot 10 balls at your legs, right? And we're gonna practice without your stick, and we're gonna make that save over and over and over again." Because, coach, yeah, right, like, you can't get your stick on everything. That's just, I feel for you. You're not alone. But the bottom line is, throw on some sweatpants, throw your shin guards on, and your football girdle underneath. Rock it out. We've got goalies in our group who are some of the best goalies in the country, who are finally bucking this trend and saying, "Enough is enough. I'm showing up to practice protected, and I might even rock them on game day." Right? If your team is barking at you because they think you're weak because you're doing that, that's not, those aren't teammates, man. Like, just let them just like brush them away, kick them in the balls if you have to, like, whatever, right? But that's an old school thing. So I hate to hear that, right? But you're in the right place, talking to the right guy to support you. Okay. Um, all right, Aiden, I'm going to cover that question a little bit later at the end, if that's okay. All right. I got to make some notes here. So I've got a question on Facebook. I got a question on YouTube. I'm going to cover that again. All right. So if you like that, if that made sense to you, please hit the like button, please hit the hearts and all that good stuff. And be sure when we're done with this to share this with somebody who needs to hear it. XZUZ on YouTube. It sounds like your coach needs to hear this. I'm happy to talk to your coach, man. Happy to. Okay. Yeah. So who's that? So who wrote that? Christy writes, Mike. No, that's not that. Who wrote that question? My daughter wanted to try to play without shin guards to see if it helps her move better. She started flinching and put them back on. Thumbs up. Yeah, exactly. Okay. The argument for equipment makes you slow is lame, and the cost versus the benefit is not the same. Plus, it's a rule for the girls. Okay. It's a rule. So yeah, even the college goalies should yeah. Anyway. All right, guys, thanks for watching and thanks for listening wherever you are. Do me a favor, hit the like button if you like this, and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. When you're ready, head on over to lacrossegoalieuniversity.com/coaching so I can work with you and your goalie. And while you're at it, check out athletespecific.com to learn more about mental performance and high performance. You may not know this, but I work with athletes in a variety of sports. Lacrosse is my love, but man, I love athletes and the families who support them. So head on over to athletespecific.com, check it out. I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.